All right, so hello and happy time zone. Welcome back to this week's Natural English lesson with your Natural English coach, me, Gordon Morse. So once again, I'm here this week to answer your questions. So let's just get into it. All right, so here's question 1. Why do people say you know and right so often when they talk? So this is a very important part of conversational English that not too many textbooks or other things tell you about. However, it's very important to know them. So these are what we call filler words. So filler as in something that fills in the space between other things. So filler words or filler phrases generally have no meaning, especially when they're used very frequently. Basically, when you're talking, you don't always know exactly what you're going to say just before you say it. Usually you have to be very good at public speaking, or you have to be very confident to always know what you want to say next, right? So see what I just did there is I said right, as in I'm waiting for you to agree with me, but that's actually an example of a filler word. So every different language has filler words in them. In English, you know and right and sounds like or like. Like is a very common filler word. Which ones people use depend on how old they are or where they're from as well. So it can also happen, these filler words can also happen when the speaker might be a little bit nervous or they have what we call a verbal tic. So a tic is kind of like a habit that is very small that you can't really stop doing, essentially. It's not a choice, it's just something that you do a lot. So in this case, verbal means something that you say, right? Physical tic is something like a movement, a small movement that you might do without meaning to do it or unintentionally, right? So a verbal tic is something, a word or a phrase that you say a lot, but you don't mean to. It just happens without thinking, because you're trying to think of what you want to say next, or just because you're trying to fill space. Because sometimes when you're speaking in a conversation, sometimes having a lot of silence feels uncomfortable for both you and your other person. So a common filler phrases in Japanese are eto or ano or nanka. So you'll hear those all the time, and as you probably know, most of them don't really have meaning, but they're there because the person is thinking or they just want to fill the silence, right? So words like right and you know and like are all phrases that in America or in English, in any version of English, do the same thing, basically. So, our next question. Someone asked me what my taste in music was. How do you taste music? So, you probably know that it's not the same as taste like your mouth taste, right? So taste can also just mean things that you like. So you can have a taste really for anything, but there are a few phrases that are very common in English. So for example, your taste in clothes. Someone might ask you, oh, what's your taste in clothes? So they mean, what kind of clothes do you wear? You can have a taste in men or a taste in women, which means that there are certain personality traits or like physical features of a person or people that you really are attracted to in men or women or anybody else. You can have a taste in cars where you like a certain type of car or a certain brand of car as well, and among many others. So you can also insult someone by saying that they have no taste or that they have bad taste. So another one is tasteless. So you might know that adding less, L-E-S-S, to the end of a word sometimes makes it the opposite of that word, tasteless. So especially when you see, for example, a piece of furniture, let's say like a chair, that's really ugly. You think it's really ugly, you can say, oh, that's really tasteless, right? You can also say that the owner of the chair has no taste, or that the owner has bad taste. So there's a bunch of different ways you can describe taste. You can also say stuff like unique taste, or complex taste, or weird taste. They all have their meaning within the situation that people say them in, but a lot of times these examples are just softer or less direct ways of trying to explain that someone has bad taste. So here are a couple of examples. I admire your taste in music. You listen to so many different genres. So a genre of music is also a kind of music. The word comes from French. So that's why it has the long J sound for the G, genres. Just means different kinds of music. So again, I admire your taste in music. You listen to many different genres, right? So if somebody listens to a lot of different kinds of music, maybe they have good taste. Our next example is, she has bad taste in men. She always dates jerks, right? So if you have bad taste, it means that the kind of people or the kind of things you're into aren't very good. All right, here's question 3. I keep saying the T sound in the word fortunately, but people don't understand me. How do I say it naturally? So as I just mentioned, or I just said, fortunately, you can see that there's not a hard T sound there, is there? So the T in fortunately is not a hard T sound. If it was, the word would be fortunately. You shouldn't say it like that. That's a bad pronunciation, and many people will be confused if you do say it like fortunately. In English, the TU part is pronounced chu, fortunately. It's also important to not get confused by words like tune or tube, because as you might have learned in actually one of my previous lessons, those two words, tune and tube, have different pronunciations depending on if a British English speaker says them or an American English speaker. So because I am an American English speaker, I say tube and tune. But if somebody was speaking British English, they would probably say tune or tube, as you can hear the kind of chu sound. Now, if you're coming from a Japanese pronunciation, it's actually probably easier to say tune or tube, because you have the chu sound already in Japanese syllabary, but the tu sound is a little bit more difficult to say without some practice. So also the tu vowel sound in a word depends on the other letters in the word, because we have also, for example, the word tunnel. Now you notice that it's not like tunnel. That's not how we usually say that. It's tuh. It has an sound, which we usually call a schwa, or an unstressed vowel. Tunnel. So we have tunnel, we have tune in American English, and we have tube in British English. All right, so question 4. I told someone that I need coffee to wake up in the morning, and they said I'm the opposite. What are they opposing? So when you need coffee to wake up in the morning, it means that usually when you wake up in the morning, you feel very, very sleepy still, right? But some people, when they feel very sleepy, they drink coffee in the morning, and because of the caffeine in the coffee, they become awake. They feel energetic, right? So some people, they drink coffee every morning to wake up. Other people don't need coffee to wake up in the morning. But if you say to someone, I need coffee to wake up in the morning, and then that person says, I'm the opposite, what do they mean? So, I'm the opposite of you, or just I'm the opposite, means that there is usually two types of people. You are one type and the speaker is the other. So if you remember from last week, we talked about cat people and dog people. These are two opposite kinds of people. So if you told someone, I'm a cat person, and the person said, oh, I'm the opposite, that means I'm a dog person, because cats and dogs in our culture are considered opposites. So this phrase can really only be used when there are two common options. So the top sentence, I like living in the city the best, right? If you say to someone, I like living in the city the best, and that person says, oh, I'm the opposite, that generally means that they like living in a rural area, inaka, right? A rural area, or what we call the country, right? The countryside. So if someone says, I'm the opposite, you generally understand what that means. A lot of times people will say exactly what they mean after they say, I'm the opposite, just to be clear, right? So if someone said, I like living in the city the best, and then another person might say, oh, I'm the opposite, I like living in the country, right? Most people do add an explanation after they say, I'm the opposite. However, then we have a sentence below. My favorite food is pineapple. If someone says, oh, I'm the opposite, that's going to be confusing because there isn't really a clear opposite to pineapple. You could probably think of several of them, maybe apples or oranges or grapes, depends on what you think of as opposite, right? But there is no clearly understood opposite to pineapple, at least in our culture. Cats and dogs are pretty clearly opposites, but pineapple doesn't really have an opposite, so the phrase, I'm the opposite, doesn't really work. So, as it says, the phrase has situational context. There are generally two types of people that can be opposites. So for our first example, people who need coffee to wake up in the morning are one type of people. Then the other type of people are people who don't drink coffee in the morning. People who need coffee, people who don't drink coffee, right? So depending on the speaker's thoughts, this can also mean that they drink tea instead. Again, if this is what they mean, they will probably clarify afterwards, right? So they would say, oh, you drink coffee in the morning, I'm the opposite. I drink tea in the morning. So again, it can really depend on the speaker's meaning, and it's up to the speaker to clarify about that. All right, question 5. When I say words that start with a W sound like would or woman, people have a hard time understanding me. So, there we go. So the English W starts just behind the teeth, and the sound is made with the lips, right? Oh, I see what happened. I think I overwrote one of my slides. That's fine. So when we're saying words like would, See how my lips turn into a kind of O shape like that? Would, woman, right? And when you're pronouncing something like would in Japanese, the phrase that you would, or the word that you would say is udo, 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 right? When you say the u, it's coming from further back in your throat. However, when we make the strong W sound in English, it actually starts at the front, just behind your teeth. Or another example, the word white, white. Again, with the strong W sound in English, it's starting just behind the teeth. But in Japanese, we say hoito, hoito, right? Ho is the first character in that word. So again, that starts further back in the mouth. So it's really important, if you want to have a strong W sound, to practice starting the sound at the front of your mouth instead of at the back. So let's practice quickly with these 4 words. First one is would, would, right? Not uddo, not like that, but would, would. Bring the sound to start at the front of your mouth. So we have would, and then below we have white. Not whito, but white. Again, right at the start, it starts in the back of your teeth and then goes to your lips. It's all right at the front of your mouth. So we have white and then woman, woman, woman. You can really feel, when you get the sound right, you can feel your lips kind of buzzing, making they're kind of like itchy almost. Woman, woman. And then finally, winter, winter. Woman, winter. All right, try practicing that a few times. All right, and finally, we're going to end with a question for you. So what's your taste in music, clothes, or restaurant? As we mentioned before, you can have a taste in just about anything, right? So think about and record your answer for practice, because if you record your answer on your phone or on your computer, you can listen to your answer later and then practice more. All right. So thanks for watching as always, and there will be a new live stream Q&A every Friday morning in Japan or Thursday evening in my time in EST, or 4 p.m. in Pacific time as well. So if you enjoyed and found this lesson helpful, please like this video or share it with your friends or anybody else that you think could use this lesson. Also, because this is a live stream, you can always ask your questions directly now, and I will answer your questions or correct your English. You can also leave a comment on any video from my previous lessons on my channel, and I'll see your comments and be able to reply to them there. All right, so until next week, have a good one.